Welcome back. My name is Jerry Audet. I'm the managing editor of Surfcasters Journal. You can learn more about Surfcasters Journal at surfcastersjournal.com. Check us out. I have the second part of a four-part series on some new surf rods, some interesting products we wanted to bring you. This is for the Shimano Tiralejo. If you missed the introduction, go back and watch that because I talked about what's important to me when it comes to a surf rod very briefly, and it informs what I think about this rod as well. Okay, so this is the 10-foot model, medium heavy, rated 1 to 5 ounces. I'll give you, or excuse me, 1 to 4 ounces. I'll give you the exact model number. It's TRJX S100MH. They gave me the option of testing any rod in the series, and I chose this one because I thought it would be the most applicable to the most surf casters, for striped bass specifically. Now, this is what you might consider to be a bread and butter rating, right? 1 to 4 ounces. That's going to cover the vast majority of plugs and really covers almost everything I'm showing you here. Okay, so this shows you a good spectrum of different lures, with the exception of maybe the glider, which is closer to 5. But everything else here, it would cover casting, okay? So these are all the lures that it would definitely cast. For a reel to match with this, we cast it with a Vanstall 250, which is my own personal reel. I've also casted it with a Daiwa Saltist, a Tsunami Saltex, but it would also pair well with something as large as this, which is the new Shimano Tiralejo, which we're going to bring a review to you about that as well in the future. So anything in the 5, 6, 7, 8,000 size would certainly work. We put the 4,000 Saltex on it. It felt a little bit strange. A Vanstall 200 would totally work. That would work totally fine. This rod is sort of one of their top tier rods. It's a very high quality, very advanced rod made with their Spiral X and their High Power X wraps. It has extremely high quality Fuji guides, a spiral grip Shimano reel seat with, Fuji reel seat, and overall it's made to be a very premium product. So how does it cast? Well, you're going to see exactly how it casts in the video at the end, so stick around to the end. You're going to see some casting demonstrations from me and my buddy Corey. It is an absolute rocket when it comes to casting certain plugs, not all plugs. And what I mean by that is this is a very, I believe it says it's medium fast, but it is, let me check that really quickly. I believe it says it's medium fast, but no, it says it's moderate. It says moderate action. I would definitely put this into the faster end of moderate fast. Compared to the rod I briefly mentioned before, the ODM Genesis, it's definitely faster than that. Compared to a GSB, it's like lightning fast. There's really no comparison. This feels like extremely slow action compared to the Shimano. So this rod will really excel at casting things that are aerodynamic. Things like poppers, darters, needlefish, gliders, pencil poppers, Larson glider right here, tins, that kind of thing. It does not excel at casting metal lips, big shads. This one's not particularly big. Anything that isn't aerodynamic, something like a rigged eel, it certainly would not excel at that, or even a regular eel, chunking, that kind of thing. Frankly, I think that this rod is on the very fast end for many surf guys. I think that for sand beach it works. I think it really excels in inlets, estuaries, anywhere where you're jigging. I think it would make a great light canal rod, and I'm sure the rest of the series has something that would really work well for the canal angler for sure. It's fast is what I'm trying to say. It's a fast rod. It's definitely not a good eeling rod. It's definitely not a good metal lip rod. It's definitely not a good large lure rod. I wouldn't want to be casting 5 and 6 ounces with this like you can get away with some other lures with the same, or some other rods with the same rating. Does that make it a bad rod? Absolutely not, because if you put a pencil popper on this thing, it will cast 20%, maybe even more than that, further than my GSB that I use all the time, because it is just such a snappy, powerful rod. Which brings me to the next thing. This rod has an unbelievable amount of power. So the action is fast at the tip, but man, once you get down here in this blank, this thing has some serious heat it can bring. It's remarkable. The other thing is it's very, very sensitive. Again, comparing it to the GSB, which is something that a lot of us can, sort of compare to because we know about them, even if you don't use them. It's definitely a lot more sensitive than a GSB, there's no question. It's lighter as well, though that doesn't matter quite as much to me. It's certainly true. It's been pretty tough. I don't notice any dings, maybe a couple little marks from fishing it, but really no trouble at all. So it's a great rod. Summing up, who do I think this rod would work best for? Who would I recommend it for? The sand beach guy who fishes heavier lures would definitely like it, but man, the guy that's going to love this is the jetty jockey, the inlet fisherman, the breachway guy. I think that this rod would just work phenomenal for there because, I mean, casting, larger bucktails, like this big 2+ ounce bucktail, 1 ounce bucktail, man, this would make such a sweet bucktailing rod. Also, if you're casting stuff like they love in the canal, stuff like this, I can't think of much better rod that has the right features than this puppy right here. Extremely sensitive, you're going to feel every little tick on the bottom, etc. Just be aware, you got to go a little easy when you get the rod to you, or the fish to you, because the rod does have such a fast action at the top. So, highly recommended. Definitely a top tier rod. Shimano generally doesn't make a bad product, but just know what you're getting yourself into. A Montauk guy who's very different than me, who cares about things a little differently than I do, may find this rod works great, but I probably wouldn't recommend it for something like that. I think that it's a good sand beach, jetty, especially inlet or breachway. Man, that's what I'm going to use this for. This is going to become my rod for that specifically. So, again, highly recommended for those uses. Now hang out, we're going to go to the beach, we're going to do some casting. Alright, so I'm out here on Cape Cod Beach with my buddy Corey. We're going to do some of the actual test casting for you of these rods, let you see what the actions look like. We got a whole bunch of different lures to try of various different weights, and I will list what each of the lures is under the video, so you know what we're casting each time we're actually casting, in case you can't see it, but we'll do some nice slow-mo and stuff. We have very different, well, pretty different casting styles. He's a little bit more of like the Bill Wetzel snap cast type of deal. I'm a little bit slower. We're going to actually start out casting our own personal rods. As I'm going to talk about the 10MS, and you've got the DNA, the ODM DNA. Which one's this one? The
10.6 3/4 to 4.
3/4 to 4. So just so you know that these are our personal rods, so you can see sort of what our style looks like before we get into the other stuff. All right, so we'll get to that now.
Sounds good.
All right, go ahead. All right, go ahead. pretty far.
I mean, the hugging
That
mile.
was pretty good. That was pretty wild.